Copperplate style calligraphy uses a pointed pen. This is what it looks like. This holder is called an oblique holder. It has a flange on the side that helps you write at an angle. And it also has this metal piece in the top called a nib. And the way a nib works, it has two tines that come together at a point at the top. When you're writing, you can apply pressure to the tines, which causes them to separate. This is what produces the variation in thickness of the letters. So that's what makes calligraphy. Calligraphy is the varying thickness of the letters. You can see there are very thin strokes called hairlines. There are also thick strokes that are shaded. And that is all caused by the variation in pressure that you apply when you're writing. I'm going to talk about some basic rules before I show you the fundamental strokes. I'm using a guide sheet right now, which has these lines printed on it. And the slanted lines are at 55 degrees relative to the horizontal lines. And this is the angle that most people use when they're writing in copperplate style. So first there are some ratios that we'll learn. Let's say this line is our baseline. So this is the line that all the letters are going to rest on. And this is what our ratios are based off of. So if we call this the baseline, one space up is the header line. And the distance between the baseline and the header line is referred to as the X height, which is the height of if you wrote the letter X. After that we have the first ascender and the second ascender. Then below the baseline we have the first descender and the second descender. And then, like I said, this slanted diagonal is at 55-degree angle. So let's look at the basic strokes. So a pointed pen works by dipping it into ink. And there's a lot of different types of ink. This is the ink that I'm using, which you can order online. We'll put together a list of materials and where you can find them. But I use this bottle of ink and I put it in a smaller container, which I have right here next to where I'm writing, because you have to redip the pen periodically as the ink starts to run out. So to dip the pen, the nib has this hole, which on this nib it's a pretty shape, and when you dip the nib into the ink you want to cover the hole, so you want the ink to go past this point. So I'm going to dip it in the ink, and usually I give it a little shake just to get off any excess so that the ink doesn't pool up. So let's look at the basic strokes. It is very important to understand the fundamental strokes because that's what all of the letters are made up of. So I'm going to show you all the strokes and what they're called, and then I'll go into more detail about each one. The first one's called an entrance stroke. And it's just a hairline that starts at the baseline and goes up to the header. As it reaches the header, it becomes parallel with the 55-degree slant. Next is the underturn, which is shaped like a U. That's what it looks like. The overturn is the opposite of the underturn. So you start by going up thin, down thick. The next stroke is the oval. I start at the top, apply pressure as I'm going down. So I gradually apply pressure until I get to the thickness, and then release pressure to become thin again, and then up and around to create the oval. Next is the compound curve, which is kind of a combination between these two. You start by going up thin, down thick, and then you finish it by going back up. So far, all of these basic strokes have started at, or have been 1x height, so between the baseline and the header line. The next one is called the ascending stem loop, and this one starts at the header line. So we'll start here, go up thin, loop around, and come back down thick. Next is the descending stem loop, which is the opposite of the ascending stem loop. We start at the header, but we go down. So because we're going down, we're going to be thick. And then we will start curling around and come back up thin. So this one starts at the header and goes all the way down to the second descender. So these are the basic strokes. Now let's look and see where we can find these strokes in this. So first, the entrance stroke, which is also an exit stroke. You'll see that it is the beginning of, for instance, this U starts with an entrance stroke. This S ends with an exit stroke, which is the same shape as the entrance stroke. So you'll see this shape between where letters are connected. So the exit of one letter is the entrance of the next letter. Next, the underturn. U has two underturns. The A has an underturn at the end. The letter D, this is the same shape as an underturn if you start at the second ascender. Overturn. Let's see where we can find one in this M right here. An overturn. The N starts with an overturn. Oval. D, A. This E is half of an oval. Compound curve. There's one here. Here. The ascending stem loop is easy to find right here, in the L and the K. And we do not have any descending stem loops, but that would be like the letter G or J. So I'm just going to label some of these. Entrance stroke. Let's see, where's a good underturn? The end of this A is an underturn. Overturn. Here's an overturn. The oval. Compound curve. ascending stem loop. This is also one. So you can see how important it is to know and understand what the basic strokes are. Let's look again more closely at these strokes. You'll see all of them, the goal is to be consistent. So the space between the letters, or the strokes, should all be constant. This distance, these should all be equal. Also, all of the strokes that have shades, the shade is parallel to this 55-degree angle. Oh, that was not a very good, I didn't follow the guideline very well. But this is why you print guidelines on your sheet. So 55 degrees for the slant. Same with these letters. I mean these strokes. They're all 55 degrees when you're applying pressure, which is when you are going down.